All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning into No Proof Strong Start, our non-alc programming brought to you by Portland Cocktail Week. No Proof Strong Start will take place every Monday in January at 2 p.m. This is actually our last No Proof Strong Start, so thank you to those of you who have been here with us all along the way. You can see this on the Portland Cocktail Week channel or join us live on Facebook or YouTube. Each week we've brought leaders in the non-alc spirits world to help bridge the gap between bar and guests when it comes to zero proof serves. As always, I am your host today, Shannon Michelle, bartender, non-alc consultant, and only a little hoarse today. I've been battling, I think most of us are battling this winter weather-wise. Today we are going to be hosting Dash Lilley, co-founder and head alchemist at Three Spirit, with our class on going beyond alcohol with Three Spirit. Dash is joining me today to share the ins and outs of Three Spirit's ethos, from their status as a B Corp or to how they ethically and sustainably source ingredients. You'll also get a look at how functional beverages can enhance your spirit-free menu, creating compelling non-alcoholic offerings for your guests and boosting sales across the board. We've got one more quiz this month, and this time we're giving away 50 gift packs that each include Three Spirit expressions: the Spark, Livener, Sharp, Social, and Nightcap. Spark and Sharp are two incredible offerings. If you have not tried them yet, I definitely recommend them. And you've got until Wednesday, February 7th, to submit your answers at lushlifeproductions.com/Three Spirit for a chance to win those prize packs. But first, if you're enjoying the content and you'd like to see more of the content like this in the future, please make sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram. Also, please comment below and ask questions. We will save some time at the end to discuss any questions that you may have, and we might even pop some up of your questions on screen during our time chatting with Dash today. But for now, we are going to take it over to Dash. Dash, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We're excited to talk all things Three Spirit, one of my favorite new non-alc products that I've worked with in the past year for sure.
Cool. Well, yeah, excited to walk everyone through who we are, what we are, a little bit about me, and hopefully, educate you guys about the fun of using functional ingredients, especially in terms of the alcohol alternative space.
Awesome.
So I'm ready to roll if we should get going.
Yes, I believe Umar has the slides for us. There we go.
Cool. So yeah, we are Three Spirit. We are a range of botanical elixirs, non-alcoholic drinks made with functional ingredients, and very much positioned as a genuine alcohol alternative. What I'm going to talk to you today about is, what Three Spirit is as a brand, as a product range, a little bit about my background, where I've come from, what my passions are, what I do at Three Spirit. Then we're going to talk about functional drinks as a whole and how they're nothing new, essentially. This is something that I find really interesting myself because I'm a bit of a nerd on ingredients and ethnobotany, how plants have been used throughout history for food, nutrition, medicine, religion, etc. And so I think what's cool is that there's nothing new about functional plants, but they're really having a renaissance period, especially with the growth of non-alc. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the new rituals that are disrupting the drinks ecosystem. We'll take a little snapshot of what the non-alc spirits world looked like when we launched several years ago and what it looks like today. It's changed a lot. We'll talk a little bit about what functional ingredients are. So things like adaptogens and nootropics, which is something that we leverage and use in our liquids, in our formulation. Talk to you about our ethos, botanical alchemy. What does that mean? And then we'll run you through our drinks range and hopefully have a lot of back and forth Q&As. And And if you guys want to share any questions during this chat, please do. Happy to break it up with conversation. Shannon, maybe you can help guide that process. But what is Three Spirits? So, we are a range of alcohol alternatives. We are very clear that in our belief, people don't just drink alcohol just for taste. People have used alcohol for centuries for many different reasons, but it's not just about flavor. It's also about complexity, mouthfeel, and the altering effects. So as a brand, we wanted to try and capture the positive effects of alcohol and try and offer liquids that could address the social aspects of why people drink and how people want to how they want a drink to make them feel, especially in social circumstances, which are traditionally owned by alcohol consumption moments. So really trying to disrupt that by bringing function to the party. We are all about celebration, socializing, helping people relax. So we try and identify the best things about alcohol, how people drink, and can we create blends and liquids that can help people achieve those goals in traditional alcohol consumption moments. We're quite proud that our drinks can be enjoyed neat. They're really versatile. Something to be said is we're not trying to imitate existing alcoholic spirits. So we have completely unique flavor profiles. So you can get creative with them. However, that said, you can make classic serves with them. So the consumer, the drinker can understand what type of drink they're going to get with the help of a good cocktail bartender. So we always try and position ourselves with traditional serves, but the liquids themselves taste very unique. We really love the fact that non-alcoholic spirits is kind of a new playing field. It's not really restricted by tradition, which maybe is the case with traditional spirits, distillation, or winemaking. There's a lot of old school understanding, terminology, regulation about how certain products have to be made in order to call them a certain thing. When it comes to non-alcoholic spirits, you can be as creative as you want. And so I think rather than trying to just focus on one process or one, ingredient, we've really deliberately tried to be as open-minded as possible with how we try and craft interesting liquids. And a big part of that is having a big mixed kind of skill set of people to work with. So we launched Three Spirit in 2018. For about a year and a half before that, we were doing a lot of experimentation, a lot of prototyping, a lot of research about what we wanted to do, the ingredients that we wanted to use, the effects we wanted our finished liquid to have. And so we worked with some amazing world-class mixologists, bartenders in the UK and England, as well as plant scientists who had an amazing understanding of the properties of certain functional plants. We work with winemakers, and we've tried to have a very open mind with the people that we try and get around the table to get creative. And this is something that we kind of refer to as botanical alchemy, which is a mixture of skill sets, positive tension when you're trying to create something, balancing the equation between flavor and function, which is not always easy, as well as fusing together lots of individual components and ingredients that then become something else. So this is kind of a core element of our brand identity, of our approach to liquid development, is doing things differently. We're proud to be a B Corp. That means that we have a lot of respect for the product that we make and our customers. It means we can appeal to a more holistic, health-conscious consumer. So we're a plant-based company, gluten-free, we're non-GMO. We source only the very best ingredients that we can. I think you'll learn that we use a lot of ingredients sourced from different places, which is complicated from a supply chain point of view. But we couldn't really make what we make without a amazing magical plants that come from all over the world. I mentioned briefly, we don't just rely on one process. So we're not an exclusively distilled spirit, for instance. So what does that mean? It means that we use a plethora of different processes according to what we're trying to extract from the plant material. So it's all about the power of plants. It's all about trying to respect the delicacy of the plant material and identify what is it that we want from this. Is it the aroma, in which case distillation is a great way to extract volatile compounds? Or is it more of the heavier compounds that are left behind in a process like distillation, which are often the functional compounds, the heavier things which we're interested in? So to create a really nice balanced liquid, you need to do a bit of both. So throughout our product range, we've got 3 core spirits in our range, called the Free Spirit, but we also have our Blurred Vines range, which is some wine alternatives. Across the 5 products, we use several different processes, including fermentation, maceration, cold brewing. We use ethanolic extraction. So all of our products come in below 0.5% ABV. They're not completely void of alcohol. And we can get into that a little bit later, but I think that's a really useful buffer to have when trying to create interesting liquids, is the ability to use ethanol in the extraction process at some point, because it's such a great solvent. And I am a true believer of you can't quite achieve the same level without that 0.5 buffer. It's not impossible, it's just more challenging. We are proud to be a purpose-driven business, so we are all about helping people reduce alcohol consumption. Most of our customers do drink alcohol. I drink alcohol. My relationship with alcohol has changed massively over the years, as I think it does for most people. And so I have to be very careful about what I drink when I drink. But most of our customers do drink. But they're looking for ways to reduce, or they're looking for really, I don't know, what's the word? Substantial, alternatives that can be satisfying. I think there's a lot of products out there that maybe don't quite satisfy that itch when you want to drink. And I think we're quite proud. We try and make potent liquids that have a lot of impact on the palate from a flavor perspective, and also functionally to try and address that, which I think we're quite successful in doing. Mentioned earlier, we're quite weird in the fact that we work with all of these different ingredients. We're non-traditional. So it's really important to us to end up where we can present classic serves that people understand. So I think as complex as our liquids might be, they're very easy to use. And you can make some of the most popular cocktail serves with them with just a couple of steps. So to tell you a little bit about me and my background, I'm a co-founder at 3 Spirit, and I run product. So I run a team of great creative people to help us produce our extracts, to help blend them all together at bottling, to help do scientific research, and to get that liquid in the bottle. But my background, I used to be in the film business. So my first entry into the drinks world was coconut water. I had a coconut water business called Cocoa Face, which turned out to be a very early functional blockbuster drink, style of drink. It was something that people really understood, and it was marketed as something that could help us, that had a purpose. You can drink this to recover, or to rehydrate, or to help you perform better. And I found that fascinating. And whilst working on film sets, I saw grown men, big crews, people freaking out about immunity and health on a film set, and really caring about consuming vitamin drinks in the morning, or ways to protect from getting a cold or the flu. I just found it fascinating that and I don't know why, but it's obvious. People want to consume things that can help them, that can benefit them. And I think that was one of the turning points for me of trying to get into the drinks world, with drinks that could be better for you, that could have some kind of tangible benefit. So Cocoa Face was an amazing brand that taught me a lot about brand building, logistics, high quality raw coconut water, which was, a delight, tasted amazing. We had a lot of joy in places like Whole Foods in the UK, and it grew quite significantly, but it was really challenging to continue to grow against big, giant global behemoths like Coca-Cola and Vita Coco. But it did spark a real interest for me in function and functional ingredients. So I work with companies like PepsiCo to help them bring products like kombucha to market, Kavita, cold pressed juices, products that had gut health claims and immunity claims. I also worked on a really fascinating charitable brand called Champa Tea, which was based out of Argentina, which taught me a lot about wild harvested medicinal plants. It was essentially a yerba mate brand, but blended with wild harvested medicinal plants from this incredible place in central Argentina, in Cordoba. And it really just inspired me to work as closely as possible with sustainable plants that have been used historically for many years in a new modern format. And it makes me very excited. I've always been a foodie. I love cooking. I love drinking. I love the alchemy of cooking and turning things, transforming them into something else. So I get most of my pleasure from food and drink. So a quick whiz through, the history of functional drinks. And what I'm trying to convey here is that, functional drinks have been around forever. It's nothing new. It's just a massive trend at the moment. But the daddy of all functional drinks is alcohol. So it's quite funny, like on one hand, whoa, what's all this functional non-alc? Alcohol is the functional drink that everyone understands. It's been used effectively for thousands of years. Before humans existed, apes were choosing to consume fermented fruit. They were getting drunk. They were enjoying this. They were maybe using this new discovery to help them. Well, there's theories for creative thinking outside the box. And it may well have helped the evolution process in terms of brain size and problem solving ability. I find that fascinating. It also kind of makes sense. So alcohol's been around for a long, long time. There's evidence of fermentation from, Egyptian times and beyond. So I think people were brewing grains, and this was a safe, clean source of water. So I think it was something that many people were drinking, not just adults, it was children and the whole family. There's evidence of wine fermentation 7,000 years ago. Obviously a big part of Roman history, but also the development of in the Middle East is where the first kind of grapes were grown. But then jumping away from alcohol and fermentation, you've got things like tea. So tea obviously has a rich history. It originates from China. It's first documented about 5,000 years ago. And tea is an amazing elixir. It makes you feel refreshed, enlivened. It turns the brain on. It's good for your health. It's got all of these nuances of how it's crafted and created. We did a whole other presentation to even scratch the surface of tea. Yeah. Tea is just a wonderful, complex plant that people understand. It has a rich culture. Cacao is another heavyweight blockbuster of functional plants and drinks. So chocolate has been consumed by the Mayans for thousands of years. It's one of my favorite functional ingredients. It genuinely can make you feel amazing. It can turn on your cognitive, synapses and make you feel incredibly on point, sharp, productive, but it also can really open up your emotions. And it's nothing new. It's been used for thousands of years. It's really effective. it's available across the world. The quality of cacao or the quality of tea, of course, varies hugely. Same with coffee. I think coffee is the most widely used, especially in the US, daily functional drink. It's much younger than tea and cacao and alcohol in the grand scheme of things, but it originally comes from Yemen in Africa, or the Middle East. And, you know, there's great stories of shepherds discovering sheep or goats nibbling these seeds or these berries on these bushes, and like, why are they so fixated on this bush? And that's how people discovered the effects of coffee and how it, again, could invigorate. We're talking about caffeine, but it's more than just caffeine. It's the full entourage effect of the compounds and polyphenols in these plants. And again, the purpose here is that the point I'm trying to convey is these plants have shaped human history because of how people are attracted to them, how people use them, how they've been exported around the world. They've shaped our culture. They've shaped our drinking habits. And, you know, it's quite impressive. So I think tea and coffee have become synonymous. Cacao is maybe less so, but tea and coffee is used across most of the world. And alcohol, you know, maybe even more so, but I just wanted to kind of make the point that these are all heavyweight functional ingredients, and there's many more. These are just the ones that everyone understands. So just talking about like the modern consumer for a second, we've just gone back many thousands of years, but on one hand, a lot's changed, you know, because we're living in the modern era. But on the other hand, nothing's changed. People still want functional drinks. People still want to feel good. People still want to boost their performance, help their recovery. You know, it's human nature. But there's more options on the table. It's not just alcohol, tea, and coffee, right? We've got the cannabis revolution. We've got edibles. We've got CBD that's being used or marketed for all kinds of uses or ailments. You've got nootropics and adaptogens that we'll come to and explain a bit more a bit later. You've also got so many different lifestyle traits, yoga, you know, obsession with fitness, something that I would put all in the bucket of well-being. The well-being boom is insatiable. It's growing all of the time. People want to feel good. They want to look good. It's not cool to be drunk. People want to have more fine-tuning tools to affect how they feel rather than just blunt instruments. And that's something that we love and something that we try and jump on and create options where there were few before. I think the analogy of, you know, you don't want to open your toolbox and just have a blunt instrument in there. You don't want to just have a hammer when you could have many, many tools to help you fine tune how you want to feel. And I think that's how modern drinkers, modern consumers want to feel. They want to be able to really have a bespoke experience. What's also interesting, you know, we're in the non-alc space, but if you look at this kind of emerging well-being economy, which includes sleep health, biohacking, performance, it's massive. It's much bigger than non-alc. So non-alc is one part of it, but this is a huge movement of behavioral change, which non-alcoholic brands and products and drinks on the menu can help service, even more so by the addition of function. So when we launched in 2018, we launched in the UK. You can tell I'm English, I'm in London right now, but we now have a US business with a team in New York and LA. But we launched in 2018 in the UK, and this is kind of what the space looked like. So there wasn't much going on in terms of non-alcoholic spirits. I couldn't talk about the origins of non-alc spirits without mentioning Seedlip. Seedlip were the first to market, again, in the UK. Really amazing brand. Came out of nowhere. It's like, wow, what's this? Quite divisive sometimes with bartenders, because it was like, what is this? You know, I don't know if I like this. I don't know. But it was slightly ahead of its time, and we found it fascinating. So there was a couple of other similar copycat brands emerging. And what I mean by that is they were focusing on making kind of imitation gins. Let's put it that way. It was something that you'd mix with tonic and have a gin and tonic style serve. It's something that you wouldn't drink neat. And so it was limited in one sense. Easy to understand on the other, which is good. Then you had, so we took a punt on going for a completely different direction of banking on this function as being our main kind of core attribute, as well as unique flavors that, is quite far out there because it's hard to explain. What's it going to taste like? The emergence of non-alc beer was maybe a bit further down the line, but jump to kind of today and you'll see it's become way more competitive. There's loads of brands in this imitation space, including some of the big boys, like the Tanquerays and the Gordons and Captain Morgans. So I think we're going to see more and more of that in the coming year or two with, the biggest brands and players bringing out their 0.0 versions, just like we've seen in beer very effectively. But what's interesting is it's a massive emergence and development maturity of the functional RTD space. So everyone's drinking functional drinks on the fly, on the go, in a can. There's loads of innovation in that space, but there's been less in premium non-alc. And so that's what we're super excited by. It's a great signal, right? There's clearly the demand, the consumer wants it, the behavior's changing. And does everyone want a one-for-one light replacement of an alcoholic liquid, or do they want something new that's going to taste great, taste unconventional, and give them positive feelings? And so we think that's way more exciting. So we mentioned a little bit about, functional ingredients, adaptogens, nootropics. Well, what are these things? Good question. You'll see them popping up again in all of those functional RTDs. It's a buzzword. To break it down, adaptogens are a class of plants that can help regulate your stress hormone, cortisol. And stress is a really important part of life. It helps us deal with danger. It's that fight or flight kind of response in our bodies. But we live in a more and more stressful world because of various reasons, smartphones always being online, just things getting a little bit tense globally and the pandemic, etc. So stress is an important thing to also manage and combat. And adaptogens are plants that have been shown to reduce levels of stress, but they can also increase metabolism. So they're really useful to find balance. So if you're quite lethargic, they're useful for getting you a bit more perky. And if you're really stressed out, they can help reduce that state. Adaptogens have been used for hundreds and hundreds of years. They're nothing new. They're quite common in Ayurvedic medicine, in traditional Chinese medicine, South American shamanic practices. So we use quite a few different adaptogens across our range, things like schisandra berries, passion flower, lemon balm. Nootropics are a different class of compounds that are normally described to help cognitive function. So they're more about performance. So nootropics might be used to help remove brain fog. They might help you with endurance, but they're things like caffeine, lion's mane, L-theanine. L-theanine is an extract from green tea that helps you have kind of a calm level of focus. Cacao is another one. So there's lots of plants out there that you guys will know. You use them, you see them every day, but they're actually, undercover tools to help modulate your mood, which is how we're trying to use them.
I was going to say, how often do you think that we see these things in our everyday life and not even really notice what their real functionality is for? Because I know that especially like in the tea realm and like tea world sometimes, especially, you know, like the United States culture is not as big on tea as other cultures might be, but you know, like we're still going out there and buying them. And how much are we buying these things without even really noticing that they have like more of an effect other than just like on us? It's just
Sure.
it's crazy like how often all of this could be like, you know, in our world, not crazy, but you know, like we see these things all the time and we never even really think to like, you know, we never take a second look at them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's what I think is so. It's one of the goals of Three Spirit is to highlight and celebrate the power of plants that maybe often go unnoticed, that have tangible effects that can be desirable, because we're always so focused on the big hitters. THC, you know, alcohol, tobacco, caffeine. There's more to life than those. And I think a modern consumer is really open to that. But yeah, like to your question, I think especially the American consumer is way ahead when it comes to function and the understanding of functional ingredients. If you think about, you know, people will take a lot of supplements as part of their day-to-day lifestyle, maybe things that help them sleep. What we do is essentially try and incorporate some of these things into a liquid that you can drink in a social situation. So, you know, something that you can pour, something that you can get creative with. But I think there's a large portion of, you know, the demographic that we're really speaking to that do already come across these ingredients all the time. And I think we find personally that it's one of the key hooks for what we do. Even if people haven't, you know, there's a lot of ingredients, but people would have heard of one or two of them and they really like them. And things like green tea, I think most people know what that is, even if they don't consume green tea on its own. I think the boom in this functional RTD space is helping people understand and see these type of ingredients more often. But, you know, I think medicinal mushrooms, for instance, are having a real boom and getting a lot of press. So I think that it's just going to be happening more and more often, these touch points with functional ingredients, educating the consumer that, oh, I know why I should consume that. It's supposedly good for brain health, etc.
Right. We had a good question here in the chat from Sarah that I wanted to bring up. And it was, are there adaptogens that don't play well with RX mood impacting meds like antidepressants or Adderall and etc.?
Good question. So yeah, look, we are really conservative with our advice for anyone that is on certain meds. I don't think, you know, we don't want to be, we're not medical practitioners ourselves, but to answer the question, yeah, there are certain ingredients like valerian, which is in nightcap, which, you know, may interact with certain meds, but in our experience, it's never really been an issue. It's something that we try and call out and highlight to any of our potential customers. So I think coming back to how you communicate that, something like that to a customer at a bar, it's a really important question. It's a good question, and it's something that we signal on pack, on website, in retail where possible. But we do try and educate bartenders to try and show, ideally on a menu, that functional ingredients, you know, they're not suitable for everyone. And that might be even for Livener, which we'll come to in a second, I'll tell you all about, which has got natural caffeine. You know, that's something that, strictly speaking, if pregnant or breastfeeding, you should be careful to consume too much caffeine. So these are really interesting kind of points of how to communicate function on a menu or at the bar. So without, you know, really specific answer to that question, caution, I think, is the way forward. Sharing, you know, these are the ingredients, but But look, all of our ingredients are food safe. In theory, they are not going to cause any major interactions, but we don't know exactly what people are taking or what conditions people might have. So we always err on the side of caution.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that just being cautious around anything involving any kind of like NA spirits as the category is so new is just a smart thing to do in general. Even if you're like not somebody who is on medication, but somebody who is a recovering, alcoholic, or maybe your relationship with alcohol wasn't so great. Maybe, adaptogens and nootropics might not be the best, first thing to dip your foot into, because a lot of people have kind of like a recoil effect to like feeling a certain way that might feel drunk. But, like always, dip your toe in the water before you take the full plunge. Like there's a lot of amazing things out there, but it's all about how you feel on those things. That's like the most important.
Yeah, completely agreed. Well said. I mean, from my personal point of view, I always try and show caution and then reassurance as well, which is, but I think we do not try and market to, exclusively to sober people or people in recovery. We are very careful to respect the fact that, our products do have effects, and therefore, we're treat them like alcohol in some ways, and be cautious, see how it makes you feel. It won't make you feel like alcohol exactly. It's different, but just like people have a very different effect to things like caffeine, sugar, or alcohol, people will have different reactions to adaptogens and nootropics.
Right. Like I drink coffee all day, but if I drink one of those Celsius things, I will explode, I think, on the inside. Like it's not always like a 1-for-1 kind of like alternative.
And that's a good example of how, coffee, you're extracting the properties of the whole coffee bean versus a synthetic caffeine or something similar. It's a different, ball game. It's going to make you feel different. So that, again, a holistic approach of trying to respect the plant and extract, the whole entity where possible is always beneficial. So before we just get into our product range and talk you through it in a bit more detail, botanical alchemy, what is that? We've touched on it already. So, it's our backbone. It's about working with an eclectic group of people, bartenders, scientists, winemakers, fermentation experts. It's about working with an eclectic set of ingredients, not limiting ourselves to one or two things because tradition tells us. It's like, let's get creative. Let's see how these things fuse together. Let's see if we can create something completely brand new. And then it's about the efficacy of our products, our ingredients, by sourcing only the best, by doing our own scientific research. We've done some peer-reviewed scientific papers that are published in journals. We're doing some more on lion's mane mushroom at the moment. So that's what we mean by botanical alchemy, and it's something that we feel sums up what we do really well. So finally, to just talk to you about our range, and I'm just going to focus on our spirits range. If you want to learn more about our alt wine range, Blurred Vines, you can see loads more information on our website, and I recommend trying them. They're really cool. But I want to talk to you about our 3 spirits. What makes us unique, we've got 3 different drinks for 3 different mood states or occasions to take you from the beginning to the end of your journey. It doesn't need to work exactly like that, but that's the use case, right? We've got Livener, which is very uplifting. It's a pick-me-up. It's vibrant. It's what I'm drinking right now. It's fruity. It's quite fiery. It's good for high-tempo occasions. It's great for an aperitif. It's something that you might turn to after a long day of work and you want to change your mood state. You can make really nice serves like a spritz or a paloma or a spicy margarita. And I'll get into it a bit more detail. But then you've got social. So it's kind of like playtime. You want to session something. You want to be moved forwards. It's something that we call the mood maker. It's all about mood enhancement and stress relief. It's great for, connection. It's a social lubricant. You can make a great espresso martini or a mule. It's quite bitter. And then you've got, last but not least, nightcap. So this is the dream maker. This is the end of the evening. It's all about relaxation. It's really easy to drink. You can make really nice classic serves like, a sour or an old fashioned.
That's awesome. 3 years
Cool.
now.
Nice.
Yeah, the NA market, it has changed a lot. As somebody who quit almost 5 years ago, watching the NA market expand is insane to me. So we're all in the same boat, and it's only going to get bigger from here. It's plotting to get bigger.
Yeah, it's really kind of like, it's like a straight up steep curve on a graph.
Oh yeah.
So to tell you a little bit more about Livener, think red fruits, vibrant berries. It's got big flavors like watermelon, guava, pomegranate. It's got a nice acidity to it, but it's also got a little spice, cayenne pepper. It's going to give it a little kick, give you a little kind of burn, which is really nice. It's something that you could shoot. It kind of makes you wake up. It's like a slap around the face. It's naturally caffeinated, but it's got more going on than just caffeine. It's got Schisandra, which I mentioned earlier, which is this old school, wonderful adaptogen. It's known as the 5-flavor berry because it tastes of everything. It tastes sweet, sour, spicy, bitter, and savory all at once. It's like a Willy Wonka berry. And it's got this kind of junipery, resinous zing to it, which is lovely. And it really, I think it really contributes to both flavor and function well. The caffeine comes from something called guayusa, which is a plant from Ecuador. It's a cousin or related to yerba mate, which more people maybe would have heard of mate, which is like the national drink in Argentina and Brazil and Uruguay. 1 billion people drink mate every day, so it's serious. It's one of the other heavyweight, functional plants. But guayusa is wonderful. It's grown under the forest canopy. It does not require any clearing of the rainforest, so it's a cash crop for indigenous peoples. It's an amazing story of how an Amazonian plant has become like a cash crop for local people without damaging the rainforest, so we love it. It also has very clean taste, very clean kind of buzz, and complemented with L-theanine, which I mentioned earlier, which is a green tea extract. They work really well together. They give you a bit of a euphoric kind of uplifting sensation. Ginseng is a really good adaptogenic plant that's good in the long term. It helps raise your energy levels and metabolism. So those are 3 of the core kind of functional elements in Livener. And it's designed to make you feel perky, chatty, ready for the dance floor. Our kind of super simple signature serve is a Paloma, which is delicious. But you can get really creative with it. I would use it wherever you might use a white spirit. So it can work really well in place of a white rum, a vodka, a gin, tequila. So I tend to go towards tequila cocktail serves, spicy margarita, or rum serves like a daiquiri. But it's fun. It's a fun liquid, and it's fruit forward. Moving to social elixir. This is more of a bittersweet, dark herbal liquid. It's more earthy. It's quite unusual. It's maybe a bit more polarizing in terms of its flavor profile. If I had to compare it to something, I would say it's in the kind of Amaro category, a bit like a Jaeger or a Fernet, big herbal flavors. Too much for some, but the people that like it really love it. And it's got some powerful functional plants in it. It's the first product that we ever made. And so we launched it at the very beginning of 2019 or the very end of 2018. And it's got things like lion's mane mushroom in it, which is an amazing traditional Chinese mushroom that's been used for brain health, gut health, mood enhancement. It tastes amazing. It actually has this really rich, savory, kind of chocolatey flavor to it. That complements the cacao that we use, which I mentioned earlier is one of my favorite functional ingredients. Dark, bitter, high in something called theobromine, which is related to caffeine. It's an alkaloid that's similar to caffeine. It's a derivative of caffeine. It's what your body breaks caffeine into. But theobromine has a completely different effect. It stimulates, but it also just makes you feel incredibly comfortable in your own skin, relaxed, which is an amazing combination.
I've got a little question here.
Yeah, please.
From Dan that says, might any of the adaptogens be destroyed by heat if you tried putting them in a toddy?
Good question. No. The reason I can say no is that we lightly pasteurize our product in bottle. And I mean, just like I wouldn't recommend putting boiling water directly into a measure of our liquid. But if you let it, just like you would make a cup of tea, you wouldn't want boiling water. If it cools down to like, and forgive me, I'm going to use Celsius, 90 degrees C, then you're okay. But no, a lot of the compounds that we use are extracted very well with hot water. So I think you'll be okay. And yeah, I really recommend using our Nightcap product and our Social with hot toddies. They're great. They do make very nice warm serves.
Awesome. Dan also recommends the Social as the replacement for NA paper plane too. So that's another cool little like modern bartender twist on how to use the Social elixir.
Yeah, we found that Social is a real favorite with bartenders. And in the UK, a lot of great bartenders are Italian and they always love Social. And my theory is it reminds them of Amaro's. But again, it tastes unique. I would describe it. It tastes a bit of stewed fruits, raisins, prunes. There's no fruit in it. There's just loads of raw material. There's loads of, plant material. Damiana is the last functional plant that I want to mention. It's a Mexican herb. It's been used for lucid dreaming. It's been distilled and used as a spirit in some of the original margarita recipes. So it's got a nice history. And it's got big herbal flavor that really comes through in the liquid. You can make, super simple signature serve, light and stormy, or riff on a dark and stormy, or a mule. Blends really well with ginger ale or ginger beer, squeeze of lime, away you go. But it also works really well in a hot toddy or in an espresso martini. It shakes really well, produces a lovely foam, and coffee goes well with it because of these dark, slightly bitter flavors. And, it's all about being a social lubricant. So we did a lot of research in the development of this product, looking at how alcohol affects our neurotransmitters and our receptors like dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, which is essentially our reward sensors. And we identified plants and compounds that could do similar things. So, Social is all about us trying our best to recreate those feelings of intoxication from alcohol. Whereas I think Livener and Nightcap are more about uplift and relaxation. So last but not least, Nightcap. It's probably our most popular liquid across the board. However, saying that, Livener tends to be the most commonly on menu, on premise. So it is used probably more often than not for cocktail creation. It's super versatile. It's fun. It's vibrant. It's uplifting. So it makes sense. It sits well on a menu. But Nightcap is super delicious, smooth, indulgent. I describe it as a wood spirit. So Livener, fruit, Social, earth, and Nightcap, wood. It's trying to really, showcase those flavors of something that's been aged in oak. But it's not a whiskey imitation. It's not a brandy, but it's got some of those nods, and that's kind of how you can drink it. It's all about relaxation, unwinding. We do that with ingredients like valerian, which is this amazing root that's bright purple when you extract it. It's got quite a pungent, difficult aroma. So it's quite strong, quite difficult to work with, but very, powerful as a relaxant. We use a lot of hops. We love hops. Hops is closely related to cannabis. It's got lots of similar benefits and terpenes. And the hops that we use has been shown to be high in something called myrcene, which is a monoterpene that can help relax. We've published a paper on myrcene. And then lemon balm, which is a really common herb that grows in most people's gardens. It smells like citronella, and it's a very effective relaxant, especially when used with valerian. But the flavors, I think, are really coming from the hops. It's naturally sweetened with maple. It's got turmeric and vanilla and things like pimento in there. So you just kind of have to try it, and it's really Moorish. Most people just drink it neat, but you can make a mean old fashioned by adding some bitters, orange twist, or you can go a bit further and make a really nice whiff on a sour. Shakes really well with egg white or aquafaba. I love a kind of penicillin serve, and sometimes it's really nice to try and add a little smoke element to try and get a kind of peatiness. So you could do that either in a few different ways, with the smoke gun, or something that some people are into, which is a microdose of peat heavy whiskey. Literally a bar spoon is all you need, and it transforms the serve. Maybe that's a bit confusing for people, but that's still going to come in below 0.5%. And it just brings this lovely element of genuine peat to the serve. So that's a little trick that I love to do.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the nightcap I made, actually, to the point of somebody else had a paper plane. I made a paper plane with the nightcap and clarified it with another Amaro spirit. And it was really awesome. It turned out really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds delish.
It was very, very good.
Awesome. So look, I'm wrapping up. So we're available in 1,200 doors globally now. So we're growing. We're originally from the UK, but we're very much about the US. We kind of got a split team in the US and the UK, but we all work as a global team. We're in some of the world's best bars and restaurants. We've always tried to be a go to market through direct to consumer and to the best bars and restaurants. We're not really available in major retail, but we are on menu in some amazing places, which is a great endorsement to what we do. We've won over 39 awards now. So, our liquid credentials are strong. And hopefully you guys can try and enjoy and get creative with our liquids, and we'd love to answer any questions.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I believe we do have a couple of questions in the chat here. We're going to get to this first one. Do you see CBD or THC infused NA spirits in the near future?
Yes, definitely. I think we're starting to see THC infused spirits already, which is fascinating for obvious reasons. I think that, just as some people are maybe a little bit anxious about alcohol, same might apply to THC. So as a company, we've always, as I mentioned earlier, celebrate a variety of active plants rather than just focusing on cannabis. But I personally think that there's going to be loads of amazing innovation. I've got lots of friends in that world, in RTD drinks. The laws or the way that people can distribute those products is changing, which is going to open them up more and more. So yeah, the short answer is absolutely. I think we're going to see THC in all sorts of drinks. It'll be really interesting to see how that is implemented into on-premise, how it can be mixed legally, regulatory with alcohol. It's complicated, obviously, but it's changing all the time. Shannon, I don't know what you think about that.
To me, I mean, it stresses me out. And this is like coming from somebody who, like does partake sometimes, like THC is something that helps me along the way. So even from like my standpoint, my question is like, where are we going I would love to see more regulations on it first, before we kind of like jump head first into like the on market, like the like on premise kind of stuff. Cause like THC on a menu in a bar, gives me a lot of pause. Just because you never know. It's like when you take your friend to the party and you're like, my friend's cool, and then you're all of a sudden 10 minutes later, your friend's not cool anymore because they did too much, or you gotta take them home. So
yeah, I mean, it's what you're saying. There's a lack of. It's too early for people to know how it will affect them. Whereas we don't have that problem with alcohol. People generally know how alcohol will affect them.
Right. Yeah. And I think the same thing with CBD, because when CBD started to become more popularized, we saw people trying to implement like CBD agave into their cocktail programs. And then at that point, it's like, okay, well, how much CBD? Like, what's the ratio in the syrup that you're using? Or what's, not everything is like highlighted for you to take note of. And I think that's where people kind of get a little bit like cautious of it. But I think like as far as selling it to like a market, like I've already seen, and I'm sure you have already seen, the THC like infused like tequila that's being kind of like shuffled around on Instagram. There's a few different like CBD infusions that like I've definitely tried that are like CBD seltzers that are kind of more marketed towards the NA space or low ABV space. So I'm excited to see like what will come of it. I'm always like, I'm a little cautious.
Yeah. I think it will take a bit of time, but it's also, it's comparable to. I know that the cannabis industry or entrepreneurs in that space, it's all about the onset time of that feeling, right? It's like how fast should it come on? How long should it last? And these are really interesting little things that you have to tweak to get right for the consumer. I think there's so much options, and the US is so fascinating in its the innovation and development over a short period of time of the cannabis industry. It's amazing from a UK point of view, where we're behind, and how it's changed people's behavior and culture. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know how many people want to drink THC right now, but that will change with, it's down to innovation and brands to bring that change, because people clearly are very happy vaping, edibles, smoking, because people understand how that's going to make them feel, and maybe it already can complement drinking. So that's my question, is like, is that what you want from a drink? I think the answer is yes, but we'll see.
All right, we've got another question here from Jasmine that says, do you find that marketing towards people who drink but want a break versus people who don't want to drink at all has impacted people's response to Free Spirit?
Let me just understand the question. So do I think marketing towards people...
Yeah, like how you've marketed kind of like in this like midway zone, like, because you're not kind of like, we're just for the sober gang.
Yeah. So look, I very much hope so. I think that's always been our goal. I didn't mention earlier, but we talk a lot about this third way. It's a part of the reason we're called Free Spirit, and it's not about not drinking or drinking. What about the thing in between, which is, again, what I mean about like there's a million ways to feel. It's not just drunk or sober. And I think most people are really interested in the in-between, not the extremes. And so we've always been careful not to market ourselves as a product for sobriety, but something that can help you regulate, help you get to exactly where you need to be. It can be used with alcohol in place of alcohol. And so, yeah, I think that deliberately trying to be aloof or for everyone, rather than just to solve one problem, which is what to drink when you're not drinking, for instance, then that maybe opens up our offering to a wider audience. It's more inclusive. You know, the ultimate goal is I want people to get FOMO when they see someone drinking our product. If they're, you know, an alcohol drinker, it's like, well, hang on, what have you got? Well, I want one of those. You know, that's the goal, rather than, oh yeah, I don't want a non-alc, you know, whiskey because I'm just drinking real whiskey. So it's like you got to give people an extra reason to consume, which I think functional ingredients and functional attributes really help.
Very cool. All right, what is the price point, or at least the range of price for the products?
So yeah, good question. So, I mean, if you're talking about kind of wholesale pricing, we kind of range between 23 and 25 per bottle. And we retail for about $40 a bottle. So if you find us online or in store, you know, it's around that price point. We're a premium product. We're not trying to undercut any kind of non-alc spirits out there. We put a lot of love and value into our liquids, and so we deliberately try and sit in the premium space.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that like people nowadays are more likely to pay, especially when you're talking like cocktail wise on a menu. People are more willing to pay like up the same amount of price for a regular cocktail as they are kind of like in this non-alc or low ABV sphere, because you know I feel like we've said this a dozen times before, but you know, like people enjoy having a fully crafted drink that's created top to bottom, and you're paying for the experience versus like really paying for the product, and you're paying because you feel like your existence is validated in that space. So I know a lot of people see $40 if they're not buying it wholesale, and they're like, oh my gosh. And you're like, well, like, how are you using it? What's your application? And also like, you need to know your guest, your customer, the people who are coming in and who are buying it. And I think that like finding that sweet spot, you don't have to undercut your price on the menu to serve an incredible drink with an incredible spirit, a spirit in it. People will oftentimes buy it, and probably two or three.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think it's all about, you know, people expect the same level of artistry and work to go into a non-alc serve in a good bar as to an alcoholic serve. And that really is easy to see when the time and effort has been put into the NA menu. And I don't think people question price when that happens, when they see a really well-crafted drink that's calling out interesting, real ingredients rather than just hiding behind some soda and some juice.
Right.
I think only when you present an underwhelming offering, people question price. But of course, the NA space as a whole is always going to have to defend its price point because of an expectation that alcohol should cost more. And I often come back with, you know, this is kind of a counter argument that alcohol is cheaper than you think it is because it's industrially produced, and a lot of what you pay for is tax. And so the opposite is often true with NA liquids, is a lot of the cost is going into that liquid. So it can kind of go both ways.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. All right, last one. Roughly how many of the valerian infusion can you falling asleep?
So good question. And it's something, when I do trainings at bars, I always have to say, look, don't get me wrong. It is sleep inducing and calming. People aren't going to be falling asleep at the table in your bar if they drink a few of these nightcaps. So if that's what you mean, I don't know if someone were to drink straight valerian extract, but we formulate all of our products with the kind of an idea, a concept of 3 serves is kind of a full active dose of what we're trying to deliver. So 3 is the magic number for us. It's our name, but it's also what we kind of think. If you're going for cocktails, if you're going for some drinks, you're going to have between 1 and 3, maybe more, maybe none. But that's the kind of right sweet spot. So don't worry, no one's going to fall asleep after drinking Nightcap. They might just sleep really well when they get home.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dash, and thank you, Three Spirit. Don't forget to submit your quiz at lushlifeproductions.com/3spirit before February 7th for a chance to win. And the No Proof Strong Start Companion PDF is also here, designed by Kassira Hill and featuring a boatload of spirit-free recipes created by yours truly. You can get your copy at lushlifeproductions.com/no proof. I've got a great cocktail with Three Spirit Livener in there that's based off of a cantarito, which is like one of my favorite cocktails for Mexico. If you enjoyed this class, please hit the like or love button and show some love in the comments. If you want to see more Portland Cocktail Week classes like this one, follow Portland Cocktail Week on Facebook or on YouTube, and those are both respectively the website /PDXCW. We are also at PDXCW and at Lush Life Productions on Instagram. You can find out what's coming up next there. Dash is lucky he does not have social media, but you can find me at ShannonTheCity _ on Instagram. And you can hit me up anytime if you want to talk about anything no proof or sobriety based. My DMs are always open. So with that being said, that's a wrap on No Proof Strong Start. I've enjoyed spending this month sharing spirit-free hot tips with all of you, and I can't wait to raise a glass with you all again soon. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.